Welcome to the wake. Wilde Words Wake. So, Oscar Wilde died on November 30th in 1900. He'd been out of prison for only 3 years and was living in Paris under the name Sebastian Melmoth, where he died of meningitis. He'd been unwell during those entire 3 years, though. He allegedly and famously said on his deathbed, "The wallpaper and I are fighting a duel to the death. One or the other of us must go." Is this true? Well, he probably did say it at some point during his illness. Thanks, Brennan. I'm a quiet person. But it's very unlikely that those were his actual last words. But does that matter? No, of course not. Everyone, but especially writers, I think, should be able to decide what their last words should be, regardless of whether it happens that way. This flippancy around his own death is highly cultivated, and something to which we can all aspire. Wilde's close friend and lover, Robert Ross, one of very few people who stuck by him until the end, said about him, "He was never quite sure himself where and when he was serious." I think this is a good way to be. I've found myself in this gray area many times, and I welcome others into it. W.H. Auden, who famously wrote an elegy in a country churchyard, said about Wilde and his legacy, "From the beginning, Wilde performed his life and continued to do so even after fate had taken the plot out of his hands." This is evidenced by Wilde Words and the Wild Thistle, but this is not new and special. David Bowie and his generation of 1970s dandies in the form of glam rockers, shadowed by 80s goths, and also like English classes, that's still happening, had already taken these teachings to heart. Wilde was in many ways the first rock star before there was such a thing. And to be such a character, one cannot be without flaws. He was certainly not perfect, not quite the queer martyr that the optimism of history has made him into. He was a complex person who suffered at the hands of Victorian society while keeping his poise for as long as possible. We've had 115 years to mourn, so there's no reason for this to be sad now.